right, some serious stuff about addiction in Ohio, working a little politics, too. Our friend Senator Rob Portman, kind enough to join me for a few minutes on News Radio, WTAM 1100. This is Bill Wills. Senator, good morning, my friend.
Hey, Bill Wills, how are you?
Good, buddy. I got a list of stuff. Let me get some serious in here first. You've been traveling around. I know addiction, opiates on your mind. There's been a committee work you've been involved in. Even at the White House, if I got this right, the president met with Speaker Ryan and Mitch McConnell, and one of the things that they even talked about in a meeting was the addiction problem in this country, Senator.
They did. I was encouraged to know that the president says that he likes our legislation. You know, I've been working on this bill for about 4 years, and it's federal legislation to help Ohio and local jurisdictions and nonprofits to be able to deal with this addiction crisis we've got. And look, in Ohio, we lost over 2,000 people last year to overdoses, but it's much worse than that. A lot of people aren't dying of overdose, but they are addicted, and they aren't going to work, and it's tearing their families apart, and it's costing us all a lot of money, and it's a huge problem in Ohio.
Not to date ourselves, but when you and I were kids, you mentioned a drug like heroin. It was unthought of. Nowadays, I know even Attorney General Mike DeWine talks about this. It's in every neighborhood, every zip code it's affected.
It is. It's everywhere. It doesn't discriminate by zip code because it's not just the inner city at all. It's in fact it's a drug that's found in our suburbs. The highest percentage is probably in our rural areas. And yeah, when you and I were growing up, it was more maybe cocaine a little bit and marijuana. I started this anti-drug coalition, you remember, in Cincinnati, almost 23 years ago. And our focus then was on, cocaine more. And no one who was young was using heroin hardly. Now, unfortunately, it's a drug of choice. And a lot of it's, Bill, because people got hooked on these prescription drugs, these painkillers, and the heroin high is similar, and it's a lot less expensive. And so you can trace this back to, Oxycontin and other things that kind of took off. People abused those drugs and then started to turn to heroin as a less expensive, more accessible alternative.
Even a news story this week, naloxone reversing the effects of an overdose, now available over the counter. Overdoses killing in this country some 47,000 people. And even I saw this stat, the highest rates of death, West Virginia, New Mexico, New Hampshire, Kentucky, and Ohio, Senator.
Ohio. Yeah, unfortunately, we're in the top 10. And naloxone's good, and it's something that more and more of our first responders, police officers, firefighters, and so on are using. And our legislation provides more naloxone opportunities out there. In other words, grants, particularly to some of these rural communities, and tries to actually improve some of the medication. So there's some other alternatives out there that the federal government should be investing in to find out how do we find something to save lives. And it's really important. I was at a firehouse recently where they told me, they're constantly going on runs using naloxone, and sometimes it's the same addict again and again. And so it's really important to save those lives. But the ultimate solution is not naloxone. It's to try to keep people off this stuff from, using more prevention and education techniques that work, and then getting them into treatment so that we can actually begin to solve this problem. And, even with naloxone, again, 2,482 Ohioans died last year because of drug overdoses.
So this bill will get marked up. It's slowly going through committee, but it'll give some more help to first responders, you're telling me, in the long run?
It will. It'll give help to first responders. It'll give help to treatment. It'll give help to people who are interested in, better strategies to keep people from using it in the first place. It gets prescription drugs off the shelf. It helps in terms of monitoring who's getting the prescription drugs. So there's a lot of different aspects to it. It's comprehensive because, unfortunately, there's no one silver bullet here. We've got to do a lot of things in order to stop this growing threat that really to all of our communities, stop the hemorrhaging, and then really focus on going forward. How do you prevent this? How do you tell young people what these dangers are in ways that's meaningful to them and keep them from going down this path of addiction?
And the effect